Hi, my name is James Aylward. I am the candidate for the Conservative Party of Canada in the upcoming election here in Cardigan. CBC here in PEI is extremely important. I know the great work that CBC does here across PEI, whether it be the turkey drive or the social highlights with regards to community events. They're an integral part of our community, and they really help to get the message out across PEI of what's happening and what's important here in the island. I've talked to Pierre Poilievre. I've talked to the people in Ottawa within our organization. It's not that we're going to shut CBC down. It's that we want to make sure that CBC is financially and financially responsible. I mean, right now, CBC gets, I believe it's $1.4 billion from Canadian tax dollars. Meanwhile, we have other media outlets that do not receive taxpayer funding to provide news. Now, yes, I agree. CBC is a public broadcaster. It's a different scenario. And I firmly believe that CBC should still get public funding to be able to provide news to Canadians. But at the same time, an organization that is laying off or firing frontline journalists who are integral to reporting of current events here in PEI or across Canada, but yet we have a CEO, again, that is making a higher wage, a higher salary than the Prime Minister of Canada, and she's rewarding her top executives with $100,000 plus bonuses. It makes no sense to me. Like, I would fight tooth and nail if there was ever a proposal came forward that somebody wanted to shut CBC down on PEI. CBC on PEI is an integral service that is dependent upon, is relied upon, and is needed here on PEI.
The CBC is very important to me. The constituents of Cardigan, it's their evening news program, and I know they all identify with the local news, the local weather, so it's very important. Well, when I was driving around in the tractor, I listened to a lot of those programs you just listed on the radio, and I think a lot of other Islanders do too when their travels to work and their travels back home. I just can't imagine PEI without a CBC presence here in PEI. I think back of the Phelan disaster, and CBC was the only news program that was local that could actually report on what was happening in PEI. And I know that CTV is based out of, I believe, New Brunswick or Nova Scotia, so they really couldn't have got a reporter here on the ground during that turmoil. It's a good investment because it really is the Canadian identity to have our own trusted news source for whatever issues are out in the news media. We know that we're inundated with fake news on social media, so it's nice to have a filter that actually tells you the real story. Push the proper authorities to maintain the funding that's available for CBC today. I'm not far enough into the campaign. I've heard 2 or 3 constituents bring it up at the door, but it was all in favor of funding CBC, not to scrap any funding.
Hi, my name is Phelan. I'm running as an independent candidate here in the riding of Cardigan. Well, I think CBC is important to all Islanders. Most Islanders watch Compass. A lot of people watch the Hockey Night in Canada. Growing up, the CBC was part of most of us with country cable, that's for sure. I have no idea how much money government puts into the CBC. I do think the government coffers have to be controlled and money has to be accounted for since it all is tax dollars, but it's very important. If a organization like the CBC didn't exist, we wouldn't have the Countryside Canada shows, the information. You're not going to see a big company, like a big, I don't know who would replace the CBC if they were ever to disappear, but I don't know who would come out and do a feature show in Murray Harbour or North Lake or Surrey or even Stratford. So I do think it's very important. I do question sometimes the politics of the CBC. I do it quite often, actually. Deep down, I believe the CBC is biased towards the Liberal government, but that's just my opinion. I did try to do a little bit of homework before this. I saw you said, well, there's over 7,000 workers there. You speak at about 9,000 at one time, so there's a lot of employees there that'll impact an awful lot of people. You're not going to get a lot of coverage to events in rural parts of the island, let alone northern Canada, without the CBC.
My name is Maria Rodriguez, and I am running in Cardigan for the Green Party of Canada. It's hugely important. I would say it's indispensable. And I think that we need well-funded independent media that is not owned by corporations, and also that it has enough resources to invest in producing local content and information that we trust. And also regional content. CBC and Radio Canada, they help us stay connected with what is happening in the community and beyond, in the Maritimes, in Newfoundland. These are places where many of us have connections and family, and this is very important. And the trust aspect is also very important. I think if you ask most people, they would say they trust the information they learn from CBC because it's balanced. I am more of a Radio 1 listener. I don't watch a lot of TV. World is Hour, The Current, and Island Morning, Maritime Noon, Main Street. And the weekends is Weekend Morning, of course, Atlantic Voices. I don't understand why there's people saying that the funding of CBC should come down, because I think the amount we spend in Canada in public broadcasting is not even high. It's about half the national average of comparable countries. I think it's only 2 or 3 that spend less than us per capita in public broadcasting is the USA, and look at the mess they're in. So why would this even be an issue if it's not even a big expense of the public purse and is so important?
Hi, my name is Adam Harding. I'm the PPC candidate for the Cardigan riding in Prince Edward Island. CBC Prince Edward Island, particularly the Compass, it's very important. It's a staple in PEI culture. It's been around since most of us, that's what we remember growing up. Many of us grew up in the rural places. That's the only channel we had was CBC. It's got a warm place in everyone's heart. Defunding it. I don't know that that's the proper approach. I worry about it though. What it is today is not what it was years ago. It just seems to have only spouted one side of the story. When you go back and thinking about the Freedom Convoy and the COVID hysteria and so on and so forth, it just seems like there was no calming side of the discussion to be had or found anywhere. Now that's not specifically CBC. That was that was the entire broadcasting arm of Canada, it seemed. So the local CBC here in PEI is just it helps keep the community closer together. People get to learn about their neighbors here in PEI. We find out what's happening from one tip to the other, and the island is small enough that it actually, it can apply to each of us. It's all of us have seen, an aunt or an uncle or someone on CBC at one point in our lives. It really has kind of a down home feel, and that really shouldn't be lost or misplaced.
My name is Lynne Thiele, and I am the candidate for Cardigan Riding for the NDP party. Well, we're a little island, and we really need to have the CBC on Prince Edward Island, and it would be a great loss if we didn't have it. We do need to reach out to islanders to connect with all the Canadians and on a wider scale to all of Canada, especially now when, looking at the big threat of America taking over our country if they could, which they can't. And CBC is something that you never want to give up during a time like this. I always want the CBC radio on, especially during news. I'm a real news junkie. And so I always want to make sure that I tune into the news and weather and what's going on the island, road conditions, everything that I need to know. It'll be on the CBC, checking out all the things that are happening, watching Compass. I would miss it myself very, very much, because we don't have any substitute for Canadian broadcasting. I would like to see a little more on the political insights, on Compass. But that's it for me. Kerry Campbell is a great asset to explaining what's going on in government, and would love to see a little more in depth of that kind of thing.